Well, if there's one thing there aren't enough of on YouTube, it's welding cart builds. And we're gonna fix that today. Welcome back to Cloud 42, I'm James. I was just kidding about the welding cart build videos. It's pretty tough to throw a YouTuber and not hit one at this point. But I need a welding cart, and I don't have a welding cart, so let's build a welding cart. This is the welder that is going to go on the welding cart. This is a Miller-Matic 211 that I just picked up recently. And yes, I do have a larger roll-around multi-process welder that you've seen in other videos. But I decided that I really would like to have a little lightweight MIG machine that I can move around and use easily for small fabrication projects without having to pull the big welder out. So the plan is to take this welder and put it on top of this rolling tool cart. This is just a little Husky Home Depot welding cart, or a tool cart, and it's already got all of my welding tools in it. Got all of my TIG supplies up here. Got all of my welding clamps, I've got all of my safety gear, helmet, gloves, jacket, everything in here. And so if I put the welder on top and I can come up with a way to attach the gas bottles to the side, then I'll have a little unit that I can just roll around. And yes, I am aware that ZT Fab makes kits that allow you to, has a new set of wheels and cord hangers and the ability to add bottles and TIG rod onto the side. The kits are kind of expensive. I decided that I just wanted to do something a little bit simpler and a little bit cheaper, and something that I can customize to just exactly what I need and, more importantly, to my skill level for fabrication. This is what I have in mind. I want to just take the wheels off of the cabinet and build a new steel frame to set the cabinet and the bottles in, and I'll just use the same wheels that came on the cabinet on the outside of this frame. Now let me turn some things off so it's easier to see. The idea here is just to use 2-inch angle iron. So this is 2-inch sidewalls by 1/8 inch thickness, and this stuff is readily available at my local home centers. And the idea is just to cut it at a 45-degree angle in the cold saw, and then we can just weld all of this together. And that will give us the outside frame. And then for these inside pieces that separate the cabinet from the bottle, I can just chop this out on the bandsaw and cope it so that it fits properly in here. And again, just weld that on. Then we can take the wheels from the cabinet and attach those to the corners. There's lots of ways to do this. I haven't quite decided yet. I could drill and tap and try to put in the bolts. I could, where it's under the cabinet, try to line it up so that the bolts go all the way through into the inserts in the cabinet. Though I think the easiest thing is probably just going to be to knock a little bit of the paint off of these and MIG weld them right on. Then we'll take the cabinet, set it in there, and we can optionally anchor this with some screws. I haven't quite decided yet what I'm going to do there. And then this pocket on the end, we can make that just the right size to hold a couple of 7-inch bottles. Now, of course, we're going to have to anchor these at the top, but fortunately the cabinet actually has threaded holes in the side here so that you can mount the handle on this side if you want. And so we'll make a bottle anchor out of folded sheet metal to fit there. Throw the welder on top, and we'll have a welding cart. Let's go out to the shop and make it happen. First thing we need to do is cut up this angle iron, and I'm going to cut it with 45-degree miters here on the Evolution saw. And I've got my drawing here showing exactly the dimensions that I need. And the first one here is 35 5/8. And I'll start by just cutting a 45-degree angle here on the end. Hearing protection is absolutely a must with this tool. Then we need to flip it around and mark it. And need to make sure we're cutting it the correct direction. And I will start by just measuring this off. We need 35 5/8 from the sharp corner. And then I will go ahead and mark the 45-degree miter. I'm just using a silver streak pencil here for marking, and those marks show up very cleanly on the mill scale. And just to make sure this makes sense, I'd like to measure it twice and only cut it once. Yep, that looks right to me. And to clamp this in this position, I'm going to get a 1, 2, 3 block and put underneath it. And this will make sure that we're clamping it securely back against the fence. Making sure that we're going to split the line and make the cut. Okay, and I'll make another one just like it for the back, and then cut the ends, and I'll meet you back over at the welding table. Got all the pieces here that we cut over on the saw. That Evolution saw just does a beautiful job. I did take these over to the bench grinder and I knocked off the sharp edges, so I've got a little facet on the end where I'm going to weld, and I knocked a little bit of a bevel on the inside here where I'm going to weld. And so the only thing I have left to do is I need to remove the mill scale in the places where I want the weld beads to lay down. The weld wire that I'm going to use will probably cut through it, but it'll be better if I have it nice and clean. So I'm just using a 2-inch flap disc on the little roll-lock wheel on the Milwaukee cordless angle grinder, or the cordless die grinder, and we'll just clean these up. Okay, that is all the ends where we're going to weld cleaned up. Now we just need to put this together. Now you don't need a fixture table to do this, but if you have one, I'm going to set up some pins here in the fixture table just to make sure that we get these corners perfectly square. At least that we get the first corner perfectly square. And this will allow me to bring these together nice and even, and I know that that corner is square. I don't have to measure it, and I can just clamp right to the table. And in addition to that, I'm going to bring in these magnetic shims and put them underneath the parts to hold them up off the table. Just so that if I over-penetrate on the welds, I don't end up welding to the table. I'm going to try to clamp over the top of exactly where my shims are. And that should bring me to a nice, neat corner. And then I'm gonna go ahead and set it up all the way around because I've got room on the table to do that. Pins won't line up for the other sides. But this will then allow me to get it clamped into place and check my diagonals and make sure that I have everything exactly where I want it to be before I weld anything. Okay, that's exactly the dimensions I have shown on my diagram, and it is perfectly square, so let me grab the MIG welder and let's put some tacks on it. Now I've got safety glasses, a welding jacket, of course I got the cotton apron, I've got my MIG gloves, and my welding helmet. I'm gonna go ahead and close up the jacket here, it'll go over my microphone, so we'll see what happens. Okay, looks like nothing moved. I'm going to go ahead and weld this out. And just like that, I have passable welds. Go ahead and put your AVE quotes down in the comments. I'll flip this around and weld the other side too. Okay, that's still hot. So that is the frame welded out, and the way I've welded this, the box that's going to have to sit in here is going to bear out in the corners, and so on this end where the box is going to go, I have avoided welding all the way into the corner, so there's a little flat spot there the box can sit on. So the next thing we need are these divider pieces. And these will sit in at this end. But of course they need to be notched to fit in here. And I've already notched one of them by cutting out a section and clearancing some material from here so that this will sit down into the bottom. So the bottom is level with the bottom of the frame and this is level with the top, and it just sits in there nicely. I just did that on the bandsaw. I'll do the other one here in a minute and show you. But for now, we should be able to just fit this piece in and get it to the correct measurement and clamp it in place. Okay, let's measure and mark this other one to be notched. Now I'm just going to set it in here, make sure we've got it at a 90-degree angle, get it settled in there where it wants to go, and I'll bring in some tools to do the marking. Take a 1, 2, 3 block, set it there, and grab a scale from a square, drop it there to extend that line out, and I'm just going to mark it with a silver streak pencil. Okay, that shows me where that needs to be notched on that side, but I need to carry it around because I'm going to be doing the cutting from the other side actually. So that's going to remove this material, and I need to mark how high up on this side I need to come, and it's 1/8 of an inch. But the easiest way to mark that is just to take another piece of material that's the same thickness and just use it as a guide. And we'll go over to the bandsaw and cut that out. Okay, this is just a typical Harbor Freight 4x6 bandsaw, and I've got it turned into the vertical position. And we're just gonna cut out this piece and then make sure we come up the side and remove 1/8 inch from the bottom so that this will lap properly. And we'll just do this all with the angle in this position. So there's that cut. I left the line, and then we'll come in this way and remove the material and leave a nice little bevel. That's that. See, we left a nice little weld bevel there, and that should clear the bottom. I will need to knock this corner off, and I'll just do that on the bench grinder. Okay, that's all there is to that. You stick it in here, grab a couple more magnetic shims. And this needs to be 7 3/8 off of this end. Make room for the bottles. Hammer. For the record, the reason I've been grinding down these particular welds is not because I'm embarrassed about the quality of the welds, which of course I am, but because this is where the bottles are going to sit, and I want to make sure that it's flat and not trying to tip the bottle over. Well, I think that is that. Let's get the welding cart flipped, get the toolbox flipped over upside down and see what it's going to take to attach this and put some wheels on it. Okay, I've got all the drawers out of this tool cabinet, and I got it flipped upside down, and I went ahead and pulled all the bolts out of the wheels because you didn't really want to watch me do that. And let's just set those where they won't be in the way and see if the frame fits. I haven't actually tried it yet. I think it's going to fit. Now this over here is the side with the handle and the swivel casters, so we want that to be this side of the frame. And what do you know, my tape measure works. Yep, that is nice and solid. Now, I'm not at this point thinking I actually need to attach this. I could, it would be pretty easy. We could use the bolt holes that are already here, or we could drill some new holes and put in riv nuts, and maybe, you know, right here and here, drill some new holes in the base and put in riv nuts to put some bolts into it, and I will consider that. But honestly, the weight of the cabinet was keeping it held to the ground on the casters. It should hold it inside the frame just fine. So for the wheels, I'm going to move them out to the extreme corners. There's no reason to have them inboard. Might as well have as much stability as possible, especially since I'm adding the bottles to it. And to put the wheels on, there's lots of ways I could do it. I could actually drill and tap and try to put in screws, but I think the easiest way is and this is what it looks like right side up. I've just got the frame turned over and set on the ground on the wheels, and the cabinet set into the frame. I did go ahead and attach the cabinet to the frame. I just drilled some holes through the bottom of the angle iron and put threaded inserts into the bottom of the cabinet, just using a riv nut or a nutsert tool. And don't worry, we will cover this in a future video. I've got some other projects coming where we'll use it. And then the pocket here on the end is set up to hold two 7-inch bottles. This is a Q-size cylinder, which are 80 to 90 cubic feet, depending on which gas is in it. And the bottle's 7 inches in diameter, the pocket's 7 3/8, so it should be easy to get the bottles in and out. But as you can see, they're not attached right now, they're just free range, and this will never do. They have to be attached securely, so we need to make a bracket to hold it on. Fortunately, as you can see, the end of the cabinet already has threaded inserts in it. Came that way from the factory so that you can put the handle on the other side of the cart. And we will use those to mount a bracket to chain up the bottles. Unfortunately, I'm out of time for today, so we'll have to do that next time. I've got 3 or 4 inches of snow outside that I need to go shovel. So we'll pick this up soon and make the bracket and get those bottles secured. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment. I'd like to know what you think. Thank you for watching.